Authorities in two different countries are on the lookout for a missing teenage girl last seen on Christmas Eve. Her family, her friends, they spent the holiday desperately searching for any trace of her after she apparently vanished in the early morning. What could have happened to her? Are we talking about the possibility of human trafficking? And what can you do to help with this investigation? Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. By the way, I got to tell you about something that we use here at Law&Crime that can actually be very, very useful to you. It's called Truth Finder. It is the powerful public records search service that we actually use to do research here on Sidebar. Talk about a useful resource. You plug in a name, you get address information, you get criminal history, and let me just say, this can give you some peace of mind. Truth Finder is one of the largest public records search services in the United States, and with a paid subscription, you can get access to unlimited reports about almost anyone, and that includes looking up registered sex offenders in your area too. You might even be shocked to look up yourself and see what's out there. So stay informed, stay safe, check public records with Truth Finder now at truthfinder.com/LC Sidebar. We have this rapidly developing situation out of San Antonio, Texas that we need to talk about. Law enforcement there are asking people who live in the northwest part of Bexar County to check their surveillance cameras and call authorities right away if they spot anything suspicious happening around Christmas Eve. Why? Because that is when the Bexar County Sheriff's Office says 19-year-old Camila Mendoza Olmos was last seen. And now they're saying she could be in, quote, imminent danger. According to authorities, Camila was last seen just before 7 a.m. on Wednesday, December 24th in the Caspian Spring neighborhood. The sheriff's office believes that she was spotted on a neighbor's surveillance camera right outside her home, searching for something inside her car. The footage then reportedly cuts out. This is per deputies, but it is believed that she left on foot because her car was still at the house when her mom called 911 to report her missing. This is, by the way, after her mom reportedly called Camila's boyfriend and father. This is according to News Nation. Now, deputies say she may only have had her car key and her driver's license on her. Her phone was inside the house, so this is very unusual. This is very unlike her, according to family and friends. Camila's mother, Rosario Olmos, told Texas media outlet KSAT, quote, "I called her cell phone, but the cell phone was there on the bed and it was turned off. I put it to charge and went out to look for her. I thought I would find her like other times, walking, and we would come home together." But obviously that is not what happened. And here's something else. Camila was reportedly supposed to go dress shopping for an event with her best friend, also named Camila, on the day that she disappeared. The friend told the New York Post that Camila's last words on the phone to her the night before she disappeared were, "Bye, Cammy, I love you." So again, very unusual. This is potentially why authorities are saying she is in imminent danger. Bexar County authorities say that Camila, who's around 5'4", 110 pounds. She was wearing this reported black North Face sweater. It has baby blue accents. She was wearing baby blue pajama shorts, white shoes. The sheriff's office activated what is known as a Clear Alert. This stands for Coordinated Law Enforcement Adult Rescue. According to the Texas Department of Public Safety, the Clear Alert assists law enforcement in locating and rescuing missing, kidnapped, or abducted adults or adults who are in immediate danger of injury or death, as well as aid in locating any potential suspects. It is used when an individual is 18 to 64 years of age and their whereabouts are unknown. There is also a criteria for there to be a preliminary investigation that verified the adult is in imminent danger of bodily injury or death, or is the disappearance involuntary, such as we're talking about an abduction or we're talking about a kidnapping. And this Clear Alert request was done within 72 hours of an individual's disappearance. And also, another part of the criteria is sufficient information available to disseminate to the public to help locate the individual, a suspect, or the vehicle that was used in the incident, which is why the information about Camila is so important to get out there. Now, the New York Post is reporting that according to family, more than 100 people have shown up and searched a 3-mile radius near where Camila was last seen. KSAT reported that the FBI has also aided in this search and investigation. By the way, Fox News is reporting that Homeland Security is a part of this as well. The Bexar County Sheriff's Office said in a statement that was released on Facebook over the weekend, Camila's mother stated that Camila normally goes for a morning walk. However, she became concerned when Camila did not return within a reasonable period of time. The Bexar County Sheriff said that Camila and her boyfriend apparently broke up earlier this year, but claims that it appears the separation was amicable. He also added, quote, "We definitely don't want to miss anything. The ground search is somewhat limited to a couple of square miles. We're also not ruling out that this case may take us outside the borders of the continental United States." And it was confirmed that authorities outside the U.S. are also on the lookout for this 19-year-old. The Attorney General's office of Nuevo Leon, across the border in Mexico, apparently put out a notice with Camila's picture asking for information. So, of course, now the question is, what could have happened to her? Did she run away from home with someone on her own? Maybe unlikely. Could she have been abducted from her quiet neighborhood? Now, I will say this. Since Texas is a border state, it has long been a focus for authorities hunting down human trafficking. We got to talk about this. According to a national human trafficking hotline report, in 2024, the hotline received more than 2,000 signals. So these could be emails or online chats or text messages or actual calls. Nearly 700 of those signals came from victims or survivors of human trafficking. This is according to the report. Those signals then led to more than 1,000 cases being identified in 2024 involving more than 2,000 victims. This is a real issue. This is a real concern. You know, back in 2022, this outlet, KSAT, they spoke with Char McMichael, the executive director of the trafficking division of nonprofit BCFS Health and Human Services. And according to McMichael, Bexar County creates the perfect corridor for human traffickers because there are multiple major highways that intersect there. And McMichael claimed that around 80,000 minors are victims of trafficking in Texas, which involves, by the way, not only sex work, but also slave labor. So we're talking about places like factories and kitchens and hotels, and runaways are especially vulnerable. Again, not saying that's what happened here, but something to keep in mind. In fact, McMichael told KSAT, statistics will show that within 24 hours, 1 in 3 runaways is sold into sex trafficking. Approximately 40% of runaways end up in labor trafficking. Again, to be clear, we don't know what is happening. We don't know what is going on with Camila, but right now it is still unclear if she left on her own, if she was taken, but it is important to mention this and put it into context nonetheless. Her family, though, says that her to run away, her to disappear, entirely out of character for her, to just leave, especially without her phone. Bexar County Sheriff Salazar also said that he wanted to make sure that Camila hadn't been swept up in an immigration raid, so that was a concern too. The sheriff says that she is a U.S. citizen, but it was possible she could have been mistakenly detained. The sheriff told ABC News, quote, "That was a personal concern. So I had to check to make sure there were no stops, no detentions, that she's not somewhere in a federal detention facility. That is something we needed to check." And while Sheriff Salazar told ABC News that Camila could be in imminent danger, he didn't seem to provide more specifics about what that entails or why. Now, Rosario, Camila's mom, told KHOU, "Pray, pray, pray, and ask from the heart to God and the angels and the Virgin Mary, whoever you believe in, to please for my daughter to return." So this is where you come in. As I mentioned, if there's any surveillance footage you may have that captures someone resembling Camila's description, alert authorities. Anybody with information on her whereabouts is asked to call the Bexar County Sheriff's Office. The number is there on the screen. We're going to put it in the episode description as well, but it's 210-335-6000. You can also send a message to the BCSO Missing Persons Unit at missingpersons@bexar.org. Again, if you have information, if you have credible information, please alert authorities. Okay, so I want to bring on right now law enforcement instructor, jury consultant, Sonny Slaughter, who we haven't had on in quite some time, so it's good to see you, Sonny. I wish it was not the situation we're talking about. I described the search efforts, I described the different agencies that are involved. What do you think law enforcement is doing behind the scenes right now? What stands out to you?
Great to see you, Jesse. It's great. I haven't seen you in so long. But so I was looking at this case as it has been evolving. And one of the things that I was just checking before we went on air, I know that they have the FBI, they have Homeland Security. And, you know, Homeland Security, which is, I'm a DHS Flexi instructor formerly. but they have HSI because they mentioned human trafficking. So HSI is Homeland Security Investigations, which is a very unique branch of the unit for human trafficking. They are highly trained in human trafficking. And I was looking to see if they were, because it's close to the border and there was some talk about human trafficking, if they had been doing any interdiction stops. And currently it's saying, according to what's available to the public, that they're not. However, because of the federal units, federal law enforcement agencies that are involved, because of its location and proximity and human trafficking, I believe that they are currently running down all of their leads with informants, those who are connected to human trafficking rings, to see if there is any potential there. They're also doing an identity mapping, is what I'll call it, to identify recent human trafficking cases, and does Camila fit that? Camila, I think that's how you say her name, say my middle name. Does she fit the description for those individuals? And based on what I've seen, her pictures and everything, she absolutely does fit that description. People don't just go missing. And she's a 19-year-old, not on her cell phone. She left out, usually walking in the morning. Someone may have been tracking her pattern of behavior and noticed that was something that she would do. So she didn't just go missing. Something has happened to her, and law enforcement is currently trying to retrace her steps, look for other video camera footage in the area, conducting interviews, knocking talks. That's good. What the FBI usually does that. And then, just trying to figure out where she could possibly be. And if human trafficking is one of the elements, whether or not she's made it across any borders or whether she's still confined to the area. And it's been several days, so It's a lot going on.
Let me just expand upon that for a minute. So obviously we don't know for sure what's going on here. But if we assume for a moment that human trafficking is an element here, if someone is caught up in human trafficking, how difficult is it to find out what happened to them, and how difficult is it to recover them?
It is very difficult to find out what happened, particularly if no one saw anything. And if there are rings operating in the area and no one is speaking, then it's even harder because folks can go underground quickly. And because she was gone for several hours, whether it's human trafficking or, I hate to say it this way, or a simple kidnapping that has no human trafficking element, people can go missing really quickly. Things can go underground very fast. And then it is difficult to bring people back from human trafficking schemes that are well connected and that have a lot of invisibility, I'll say, where people can just go missing quickly.
I mentioned at the top that law enforcement is asking people to hand over surveillance footage or look at their surveillance footage. Mm-hmm. How useful is that going to be, and how does law enforcement sort through that to see if they can find her, to develop a timeline? How does that work?
So one of the things that most people don't realize is that when people hear law enforcement, they always think the individuals with the badge. But law enforcement has sworn and civilian individuals that work processes. So what is probably happening is they have a task force, they have a group, they have a command station, and the individuals there are separate individuals who are watching all of the footage. They're watching from homes, but they're also watching from businesses. And what they will do is they will take the center part of where she was and where they last saw her missing. And from all of the footage that goes out, they will look at businesses, banks, stores and places, and the highways to determine what the route could possibly be, identify those cars. Those are individuals who are analysts, who are watching and scrubbing videos, and then they are sending that information out to the sworn law enforcement professionals who are doing the interviews, and they're trying to tamp down on any miscommunication or misinformation so they're not going in 100 different directions. It's a very tedious task because, one, they don't necessarily know what they're looking for or who they're looking for other than the identified victim. It is strenuous, it is long, it is very coordinated, and eventually you might see the U.S. Marshals get involved if they can also help track down. They're some of the best trackers in the world that we have, those that work with the U.S. Marshal Services. So even though their names have not been mentioned, U.S. Marshals, law enforcement is currently using every tool in their arsenal to go through footage to just establish a timeline closer to when they saw her last and to review its critical information that everyone releases whatever kind of footage that they have, if they see anything.
How significant is it that this is now subject to a clear alert? I mentioned that before, what the criteria is for that you have the FBI involved and assisting, that you have Homeland Security assisting. There is this apparent coordination between multiple agencies and the Bexar County Sheriff's Office. You have reportedly, over 100 people who were searching. You have a lot of eyeballs, a lot of resources, and now the clear alert system a part of this. How significant is that? And does it give you any reassurance that perhaps we can find her sooner rather than later?
It's extremely unique that they've issued a clear alert because you don't always get that. The coordination of multiple law enforcement agencies is not always unique, but in these particular cases, everyone knows what their job is, what their duties are. And as long as you have a strong command, I believe that we'll know sooner rather than later where and what potentially happened to her. Hopefully, she can be recovered quickly from wherever she is. However, if that does not happen, then the family has to contend with the longevity of everything that they're dealing with in the community. I would suggest that everyone stay alert, be on your guard, and cooperate with law enforcement fully. It's really, really important, the cooperation, not just from the law enforcement agencies, but the community.
How unusual is it at this point, at least of what's being publicly reported, that we don't really have an idea about what happened to her? We don't have any physical evidence about what happened to her. There's this weird footage of her searching the car, her phone left behind. She might have left with her license, but they're not finding anything. How concerning or unusual is that? And is there a possibility that law enforcement knows more than is just being publicly shared? I mean, they talk about an imminent danger. They talk about an imminent danger without explaining more what that is.
The public always wants more information, but sometimes the silence and what is not shared is really critical because, one, they need to ensure the safety of the individual that they're trying to recover. And I'm sure they are doing things and they have information that they are not sharing. That is strategic, that is intentional, and they have to keep some things quiet because if they have additional information, they don't want the perpetrators or perpetrator to know exactly how close they could be. So not withholding some information is vital, and just saying that imminent danger is really important. People should listen to the cue words, the buzzwords, imminent danger, without trying to focus on exactly what that is, and know that they don't use that type of language unless they have already identified risk.
What does that mean, imminent danger? What does that mean? What would lead them to that conclusion?
They may have found blood. They may have heard some information that she was taking. I'm sure some type of evidence that they're not sharing that says imminent danger. They know something, otherwise they wouldn't use that particular language. Imminent danger means a threat that is unknown to the public, potentially known to law enforcement, and that it is severe, and that they need to get as much information from the public as they can to locate the individual that they are searching for.
Can you elaborate on that last part? In the sense, aside from surveillance footage, which could be key to this, what more can the public do? I mentioned her description, I mentioned the contact number. What can the public do at this point?
Continue to watch the footage, watch the coverage, share any information that is put out by reputable entities like Law&Crime Network and law enforcement. Don't go down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories. Leave the legwork and the law enforcement stuff to law enforcement and just continue to share the information. One of the things I want to say really quick, Jesse, is a long time ago, Jennifer Cassine went missing from Florida, and her case has come back around. This is like over 20-some years ago. And something that I learned from her parents when we worked for the Office of Victims of Crime, that the family should be aware of. A lot of people like to put up posters, but posters can be impacted by weather elements. One of the things that Jennifer Cassine's family did was they created business cards with the information that you are currently sharing and that others are sharing, with the name, the date of birth, the weight, and all of the particulars, and a number. And what the business cards can do is you can put them out everywhere. Yeah. In restaurants, you can just keep dropping them by. So if unfortunately she's not found right away, and if a person in your family goes missing, business cards provide you a different sense of, they're not big, but they speak very loudly because they can be left in restrooms. They can be left anywhere on the table when you're going out to dining. And people tend to pick up a business card. They won't necessarily carry a flyer.
Right.
So in the interest of helping law enforcement, the ability to maintain that information and continue to spread it out is really critical. That helps. And anything that you see, when we say, if you see something, say something, that is really true. Keep her picture visible, keep her name on our lips, and continue to talk about the case until she is found.
And one last part, this idea of perhaps Mexico helping, or authorities outside of the U.S. helping, the Attorney General's office of Nuevo Leon, they're putting a notice with this young girl's picture up, asking for any information. How does that work? Do you have confidence in authorities outside the United States assisting with this investigation?
I do. Although, we don't always believe, based on television and things that happen, that all law enforcement outside of the United States have corruption. Because I have worked these specific types of cases in human trafficking and involved Interpol and other law enforcement agencies, we rely on our counterparts overseas, outside of the United States, because we are building relationships, sharing information, and looking to recapture and recover individuals who are removed from the United States. The fact that all of this is happening shows just how much of an imminent threat that there is, and that law enforcement does have information that they're not sharing.
Sunny Slaughter, thank you so much for coming on, taking the time, and explaining the situation to us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. You can follow me on X or Instagram. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.